Well, I don't want to go too deep into this, and we promised people questions, and we're going to have questions, but because I also don't want to talk about this in the new year. Last night's AEW Dynamite, I thought, was one of the worst episodes of their show or any wrestling show I've seen in a long time. It was just such a chore to try to make it through that show. It was bad segment after bad segment. It was everything wrong about AEW from the past. Back again here for this last big show at the end of the year. I thought it was atrocious. I hope I'm not jading your thoughts on this episode, but what a garbage episode in every fucking way. Did you see any of Dynamite last night?
Well, basically, I saw what everybody was a Twitter about on Twitter this morning, and that's the only reason that I zipped through it, and you're right. This was the Christmas to New Year's week episode, and they just threw their hands up and said, fuck it. We don't care. We're not going to try. Why bother? And so we're not going to talk about this program except to laugh at what they presented us real briefly and then get to the meat of the matter, because the reason why people wanted me to talk about one segment is because my name was bandied about. I can't, my name, my visage, my likeness, my spirit is always there hanging over them, like the smog that hangs over Los Angeles. And in this case, this was a smoggy show. It was nice at the start to see they welcomed back Jim Ross, gave him his own entrance. He went through all those treatments. He's back on the microphone. That was very classy. And they followed that up with a 10-man tag. Jungle Boy, Dino Douche, Christian Cage, and the Lucha Brothers against FTR, Matt Hardy, and Private Party with Tully Blanchard in the corner. And a couple of other stooges that I didn't recognize. And that went 20 minutes. I didn't watch it, but it went 20 minutes. I mean, well, maybe the second match. Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz against Daniel Garcia and 2.0. Because the AEW cannot do a television production without Daniel Garcia and 2.0. We might not see other big stars. Powerhouse Hobbs. Did somebody unplug him? We might not see them for months at a time, but Daniel Garcia and 2.0 every show. And now Jericho is trying to leech off of Kingston's popularity by making a save for him and Santana and Ortiz with a baseball bat, which I thought was Sting's gimmick. But Kingston didn't want his help. MJF called Sting an untrained outlaw hack in an interview. The MJF interview was very good, but it was back in the back, pre-taped. Wardlow beat Mooch McGee. The Hardley Boys and Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly did another backstage interview with the incredible Shrinking Cole. And now I can't unsee it, Brian, since you mentioned it. When we were watching NXT and Adam Cole looked like a rock star, was he at that point skinnier than Kyle O'Reilly is?
I don't know. I mean, it actually...
Because he is now!
I did have the same thought. Was he always this small? And I just missed it in NXT. But yeah, the answer is yes.
It's like he was standing there kind of slump-shouldered, and it's like they've just already whipped all the fucking oomph out of him. So anyway, then we come to the segment that everybody wanted me to talk about. Dan Lambert. They let him get in the ring this time. Him and Scorpio Sky and the other Page. They didn't have to sit in the Waldorf and Statler box. They were in the ring. And now his task, his job, is to make the people cheer for Cody. Figuring if they run the closest thing they have to Attila the Hun out to the ring and let him talk, that the people will cheer Cody. So he was knocking Cody and his entourage. And did you notice, by the way, that he was slowed down? He was taking his time more. He had a little more inflection to things, a little more emphasis on his points. He wasn't just reciting like the Federal Express man. Maybe Dan's listening.
He also seemed tired. This whole thing seemed tired. This whole thing was tired.
I did like that he said that Brandy is the first Brandy he ever knew that's not a stripper. But anyway, he's doing the interview, taking the piss out of Cody and all Cody's people, and here comes Brandy. But not just Brandy, it's now Hacksaw Butch Brandy again. The same Brandy, she brings it out once a year. The first time was with old Jane Cargill, and now Hacksaw Butch Brandy is back again.
Same line, too. Same opening line.
Yes. Is this open mic night? And, well, if you do something right once in your life, the next time you're asked to do it, you generally do that same thing again. But anyway, she comes out with a microphone. She talks to the ring, knocking Dan Lambert, and gets in the ring. And before I say what she said, we're expected to believe that these three grown men hate her husband and her whole group, and she just walks right out there, a 125-pound woman, I guess after her pregnancy. She's back to her normal weight, and gets in the ring and is going to tell all of them what she thinks of them, tell all of them off, and is not scared in any way. Doesn't that tell you automatically, well, this is obviously fake? But anyway, nevertheless, but hey, Brandy's tougher than Road Warrior Hawk. So she gets in the ring and she tells Lambert, "You're like a less talented version of Paul Heyman." And the people go, ooh, like, oh, she got him with a burn. And whatever the fuck. And then he says, well, I prefer Jim Cornette. And instead of the ooh burn, it was like, oh my God, it's like complete disgust just emitted from the people. Like, how dare you mention that name? It's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times or whatever the fuck. So anyway, Brandy Runnels, who's gotten in the ring with these 3 men that don't like her or her husband, now offers to whip Dan Lambert's ass for free and starts taking off her fucking earrings and shit, and like they're gonna fight. And I'm sorry, but even though Dan Lambert is almost my age, he's still a grown adult man who actually owns a fucking mixed martial arts academy. So we were is she aware that people think for this very reason that she's complete poison to television when she is expecting people to believe that she's going to fight this fucking guy? It's not me and Baby Doll from 30 years ago where I'm a goddamn wimp and she's actually at that time an inch taller and fucking 15 pounds heavier than me and the women's shot put champion at Lubbock High School. It's Brandy. But they're going to fight. And now the people are trying to be forced to pick between the 2 most unlikable people in AEW. And Brandy said, if she said, you're a black belt, well, I'm a black bitch, so let's go. So why has it always got to be about race? But anyway, this woman's ego is out of control, and here comes Dustin in, and Dustin's going to get between and try to calm Brandy down. And the other page comes and blindsides Dustin from behind. And the best part of the segment was the bump that Dustin took off of that. And then the heels just left. And there you go. So that was just a way to get Brandy on television, basically. I know you were looking for Jane anytime.
That was one of the worst segments I've ever seen on a wrestling show. But let's take a step back. This Dan Lambert thing has been one of the worst things that Tony Khan has insisted on having on his show, because it's his thing. It's his baby. It's terrible. And at least there was some life to it early on. Nobody cares.
Well, Jericho beat him into powder in the first 3 weeks, and then it was over. And remember, I said it was over then, and it's been over ever since.
And no one wanted to see him and his team then. And at least then he had some big stars in mixed martial arts. I'm never going to take away what you think about Ethan Page and why. My philosophy is it's Impact. That's less wrestling than it is some foreign country producing a show that I never see. So I'm going to pretend like he's a fresh wrestler I've never seen before. He's got a look. He's got size. He looks like the kind of heel you'd want to hit, but may be able to hit you back. So I understand what you think about him. And I'm never going to tell you don't think that. I see him a little differently. And I see him as someone they could do something with. On the other hand, Scorpio Sky, who is hamming it up to the point where nothing seems genuine. It all seems like a clown show. In case anyone hasn't noticed, nobody cares about Scorpio Sky. This guy was one of their first tag team champions. Nobody gives a shit about Scorpio Sky, and now he's acting like a clown. He is their version of Lance Storm.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm serious. And I'm not even saying that as an insult. As a guy, you put him in a match on the show, he'll be in shape, he'll be able to do all the basics, maybe even some flashy stuff. The guys who work with him will like working with him, but people don't want to see him and don't give a shit and won't pay to see him. And I think that's what Scorpio Sky. So I think that takes the Dan Lambert stuff down, even if you like the Dan Lambert stuff. And that certainly takes Ethan Page. By the way, has anyone noticed that Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky have no chemistry together whatsoever? One's on one side acting like a child, and the other one's acting like a brooding heel that could fight you. It's ridiculous. And Lambert's entire act and all the material is just lame at this point. And like you said, they're going to try to use him now for the Cody thing. And the Cody thing is getting tiresome too. So Brandy comes out. He says all this awful shit about the Rhodes family. Brandy comes out. Not Cody. Brandy, who gets in the ring. And again, like you said, this woman, fucking Stephanie McMahon light, gets in the ring and is going to fight all the heels. She's going to take off her coat and fight the heels. And then Dustin has to come. Not even Cody again. Dustin, her brother-in-law, has to come out. Is Cody in the back with Red Velvet? If we're going to go based on what's happening in storyline in the last year and a half. Where's her husband? This whole thing was so stupid. Brandy coming out and right away doing the same line she did a year ago for the only segment she's ever been in that anyone has ever liked. Right away set this off as being stupid. This whole show felt like AEW from a year and a half ago. And that includes the way the Rhodes family is used and the tone deaf way they're being used. It's ridiculous. And I'm so negative on AEW coming out of this episode. This was one of the worst episodes of their show they've ever had because I've been on such a good run of liking their stuff. And this segment and the prospects of Cody working with either Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky with Dan Lambert, none of this is appealing in any way.
But let me hold on here one second. Scorpio Sky. He was one of the first tag team champions. He was a babyface. Him and Kazarian, right? And Daniels. They were SCU. And even though they had the silly mic stands and the catchphrase and all the whatever the fuck, Scorpio Sky was in shape. He could work. He was a very good athlete, did the flying stuff, but it didn't look like kids' gymnastics on the trampoline. You could have used him in such a way that people now wouldn't just be scoffing at the look of him. Now he, like you said, he's hanging out with Lambert and Page, and they're wearing the weird clothes. And when's the last time any of them that they ever wrestled? When's the last time you saw Scorpio Sky wrestle? People have forgotten that he's a good athlete. But but he doesn't have an over-the-top heel personality or any kind of over-the-top personality. As a babyface, if he had been branched off from the tag team and made a single babyface and had a run where he was established and used well, then you could do a variety of things maybe with him today and people would care. But they broke Daniels retired, then they broke their team up. Then for some reason, he and Page just started hanging out in the fucking bleachers in a morose fashion, and now they've been thrown in with Lambert simply because they supposedly trained in mixed martial arts. Well, goddamn, I read a book on dentistry one time, but I'm not going to fucking take over Britt Baker's practice.
And Lambert says nothing about them. I mean, the whole thing that Lambert does, it's all about him. It's all about him. And I mean, the Tony Khan man line is fucking tired now. It's all tired. But it's all about Lambert, and then it's just Sky on one side acting like a child trying to get some camera time. Steve McQueen, he's not. And on the other side, you got Page, and it's like these three people, none of them have anything to do with the person next to them. It's so bad. And you know what? Maybe this segment wouldn't have been as bad if it was on a show that wasn't surrounded by complete shit. But this entire show from top to bottom was garbage.
Oh, well, and I was going to watch your girl, old Jane Cargill and Thunder Rosa in the women's tournament. And okay, Rosa, I'm going to see if she can perform a miracle with old Jane here. And I started watching it. And within, the first 90 seconds, they went out to the floor and started fighting on the floor. And I put the clock on it, Brian. Do you know how long that they were out on the floor bouncing each other off the guardrail and taking back over on each other and running each other into the post and doing all the floor stuff? Do you know how long?
I do not know.
2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Oh, that must have been a countdown.
No, because every 45 seconds or a minute, one of them would almost roll in under the bottom rope and then roll right back out, and that breaks the count. No! And Flair used to get away with this because it was fucking Flair, right? But they've completely lost the plot now because people, again, this is another thing in wrestling that it's been so long since it was done right, nobody remembers. If both wrestlers are on the floor and one wrestler rolls back in, Brian, does that stop the count on both wrestlers or just that wrestler?
Huh. Never thought of it that way.
Well, you should, because
it's just count on the one wrestler.
Anytime anybody has ever been counted out in the history of wrestling, when there's two guys on the floor, one guy beats the count and the other guy didn't beat the count. He got counted out. You don't stop the count on both people when one person rolls back in the ring to stop the count. The count stops on them.
Excellent point.
Not on both people. And they weren't breaking the plane of underneath the rope, so it wouldn't have been legal anyway. It's just what modern talent is told is acceptable, or this is how you do it. And this was caca. And why that they would set up a match with a very green girl, and it's a girls' match to begin with. Why they would set up a match with an uninterrupted 2 minutes and 45 seconds on the floor, I have no idea. And this match also went through the top of the 9 o'clock hour. But then after that, guess who came out?
I don't remember. Oh, CM Punk.
Like Mussolini with Provel cheese.
Disgusting.
They had CM Punk a live in-ring promo on this episode, and they let Jane Cargill and Thunder Rosa go across the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and then had Punk come out later on. So he gave another class in public speaking. He acknowledged Jim Ross. He remembered Brody Lee. He segued seamlessly and perfectly to MJF. When he's in the ring, he's talking to all four sides of the ring to bring all the live audience in, which the WWE guys just stand there and try to not look at the camera, but they're not supposed to really engage all the live fans and wander around like you do if you're really public speaking. So this was real, and he ended up kicking MJF in the balls he's a bigger waste of con money than Tim Tebow, and said it'd be a real shame if somebody interfered with MJF's quest for the gold. So there's more to the story here. So I felt like I was watching SmackDown. I got to see the equivalent of Paul Heyman on AEW, CM Punk's verbal ability. And God, and then actually the second best thing on the show was Tony Schiavone with Brian Pillman Jr. Except he wasn't really with him. He was in the ring with him. He introduced him, and then he handed Brian the microphone and then just fucked off and disappeared. And left Brian standing there in the middle of the ring by himself. But thank God it was Brian Pillman instead of Griff Garrison. He did a good babyface promo. He ended up having some fire and some emotion. He almost went a little too far, but he reined it back in just a bit. He challenged Malachi Black. He's going to get even for what's been done to his partners and friends. Had some oomph to him, some bass in his voice. And then there was a blackout. And the lights come back on, and there's Malachi Black standing in the aisleway. And then there's a blackout. And the lights come back on, and he's gone. And that was that. And then the main event of the evening. Brian, what have I been asking them to do, begging AEW to do for the past 3 months now since people became available? Put the Undisputed Era back together. And they put the Undisputed Era back together. Cole and Fish and O'Reilly. And they put them on TV in a 6-man tag with the Puddin' Gang. Pockets and Muffin Top and Trent. And I just laughed and hit delete.
You know what? That's the proper reaction. This was one of the worst episodes. There's no excuse. Even if it's holiday time, knowing who works there, knowing who was there, there's no way that you couldn't have put a better show on that TV. And quite frankly, I'm going to disagree with you. I thought this was, I'm not even going to say the worst, but this was the least good CM Punk interview. A lot of it was because of the room. A lot of it was because I thought it went a little too long. And a lot of it, honestly, he should have been kept off this show. Danielson wasn't there. They kept Cody off this. Cody was there. He's going to be on Rampage. Cody wasn't on this. This was a miserable episode of wrestling. And CM Punk shouldn't have been mixed in here at all. MJF had very little of it on him, thankfully. But this was just terrible. And
this was like a loser leave town battle royal in Tupelo. Everybody trying to bail over the top rope to fucking...
And you'll have some people wanting to see what happens with the Bucks and the Undisputed Era, who couldn't beat the Best Friends until the Bucks helped them, by the way.
Oh, no. What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
There were multiple pile drivers that got kicked out of it. It was the most ridiculous garbage piece of shit. I wanted to see it because I wanted to see O'Reilly, who actually showed a lot of fire. It's just it's just all this. Yeah. It's just all of this. And I think there were a lot of people for a long time that were excited to see the Undisputed Era together again at some point. There was a lot of hype about them. They were the highlight in NXT, by and large, for a long time. And here they are, reunited in AEW, and I already don't care, and I don't want to see any of them again.
Yeah, I think I'm over it, too.
This was, what a terrible episode. I've been so high on AEW. Horrible.
I know, and I've never been forced to dislike someone that I actively liked so quickly than with what they have done with Cole and Fish and O'Reilly since the moment any of the three of them stepped foot on that television program. But anyway, that's the name of that tune.
Well, Jim, maybe you are a wrestling podcaster in New Jersey who's not very happy with AEW right now. Perhaps you are someone who thinks, what am I doing watching this on TV? Maybe you're not happy with the things you hear, the things you see. Maybe it's about time, with them about to touch down in New Jersey, it's about time to hit them with a lawsuit.
Maybe you're just sat in catering saying, what is my life? Regardless of what or who or how, if you need assistance to extricate yourself from a legal entanglement or to prosecute and process the people who have offended you, harmed you, or been negligent toward you and damaged you in some way, the answer is quite simple. There's only one place to go.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Go to the rest.
You know, Brian, I almost hesitate to do this, but I think I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to give away some of Stephen P. News' money.
What?
I'm going to have to give away some of Stephen P. News' money. I am going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that the consigliere of the cult of Cornette, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084, besides being able to help any of you out there, the common people, the common men and women, the everyday citizens that go about your business and try to do the best you can, he can help you with legal entanglements. But I am going to make this public offer to Tony Storm, because I think Stephen P. New would be on board with this. Tony Storm, Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. 8084. He will take your phone call, and I'm saying that if you want Stephen P. New to take those treacherous, evil empire traitors up there in Connecticut and take them into court and shred their dignity along with that ridiculous independent contractor clause and all the rest of it, just call him up on the telephone. Call somebody on the telephone. Call Stephen P. New and say, Stephen, I need your help. He will slay the mighty Greenwich Dragon and make that Greenwich Dragon gallop away. That's what Stephen, gallop. They'll gallop away. I'm giving away Stephen P. New's money here. I'm saying gratis. He will represent you, Tony Storm, gratis. That means you pay nothing. But of course, if he wins money from the WWE, I'm sure he'd take some of theirs. Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. Tony Storm, the ball is in your court. Let him get you out of the clutches of the evil jaws of Vince McMahon's empire.